ci posso fare io?
Aspettare il giorno e poi ci hanno mandato via.
Una folla non pensa, non sa quello che fa. Questo lo diceva il grande Spincertrasi in furia. Allora, che dici? Ce lo facciamo vedere il film a queste povere pazze?
Magari, ma come? Si può fare?
Vedo che voi non volete credere alle mie parole, ma ai vostri occhi dovrete credere. E ora alza le chiappe da quel dannato sgabello.
Non sapete che è gelosissimo, che esasperato, che armato.
Attento. Abracadabra. Guarda dall'altra parte.
This is from a Yale professor that studied in Italian film. She says the cinema offers the secular version of transubstantiation. They are participating with the divine when they're identifying with these stories and characters. In Italian, the actress word is diva, which also means deity. When cinema takes the place of the Father, that is their version of engaging with the divine.
Yeah.
And so this story, it's not what you think.
No!
So there are two cuts to this movie.
Yeah.
They did a couple like limited screenings before the movie came out, and it wasn't being well received. So that is now the director's cut. Before it was officially released, he cut it down to 150 minutes. After it was released in Italy, it bombed. The producer said, I don't want to give up on this film. If we can trim it to a tighter 120 minutes, then I think we'll have it. Then they take it to Cannes, and it explodes.
And the Oscar
Like
goes
dynamite.
to Italy for Cinema Paradiso.
It hits.
And I enjoyed it. I wanted to know more and have the story updated as it goes along. I thought it was just terrific. It's a big, epic.
You know, among other
picture.
things, I think, especially in Italy, where little theaters have really been killed by television and by home video, it's an elegy to a lost time.
And then, years later, the director's like, I still want my movie, my version shown. So he releases in the DVD the 170-minute version. So that's 50 extra minutes of movie.
And you need the director's cut. You need
Yeah.
that story to flesh out even more what's happening.
I think that's where I get at. It's the hiding of what is truly going on and
Yes.
the teaching of what
The
is
church,
happening.
and I think that's one of the faults, is that the church is not trying to raise Toto as a man who's ready to engage in the world. The church is failing him.
E quando mai? Quando mai?
But here comes the cinema, and the cinema is offering that taste of like, this is what it's like to be a human being living in the world.
Pam, pam, pam. Prima spara e poi pensa.
And that is what not just is raising Toto,
Yeah.
but as we see in those scenes with the Nueva Cinema Paradiso, that's what's influencing people, right? Because the stories that they're seeing on the screen are influencing the actions within the theater, because it's a movie that's actually showing you the stories that we see influence us. Underneath all of this, of what it's saying about cinema, is we're seeing a young man whose own story is being shaped by all these different stories and by the concept of cinema itself. And like what Nick is saying, I think there's something about it where on one hand, we could say, wow, he's finding himself. He's discovering himself, right? He's finding his passion. But on the other side, he's losing something as well that should have been given to him but was taken from him.
So here is just a young boy who does love film and is caught without any guidance. And his guidance becomes a projectionist, but there's a lot to Alfredo that skews this picture. Cinema is now becoming his father.
And Alfredo is the figure that represents that. His father has been stripped of him. God the Father has been stripped of him. And all that is left now is this path of cinema.
He's becoming the priest of that movie theater.
Yes.
Because he's taking Alfredo's place, and he's the one who's showing the public life. Like, this is the truth. He's the one who's the messenger now.
But of course, how he does that is through taking Alfredo's mythical story of the 99 days, and he's trying to make that story his story. Just like all the stories of cinema, he's trying to adapt them into his life in some way. And that's why there's that moment where they're on the water and they're watching the movie, and he's laying there in the rain.
And pops up.
But what is the line he says before he pops up?
This was a movie.
If this was a movie, this would happen. And then bam, she pops right up.
I was almost like,
And
is this even real?
Well, it's almost affirming to him his emerging worldview. The director is almost like God confirming to him, yes, your life is like a movie. And then when Alfredo has that line where he says life is not like the movies, it hits him as such a gut punch. And I think that contributes to the lostness he feels later.
La vita non è come l'hai vista al cinematografo. La vita è più difficile. Mattinni, tornati indietro. Tu sei giovane, il mondo è tuo. E io sogno vecchio. Non voglio più sentirti parlare. Voglio sentire parlare di te.
Years ago, I showed the film to a group of American students who were studying abroad with me in Italy, and I rented the only version of the film available in Italian video stores, which was the director's cut. Now, neither I nor my students had seen the director's cut, and we didn't even know it existed. So as we were watching the film, at a certain point, my students let out a collective gasp. The film included footage that they hadn't expected to see. They were shocked. And the film ceased to be their Cinema Paradiso. And I'm using the word their quite strategically because they had come to possess this film. They had internalized it, and it had become part of their own private Cinema Paradiso, their own private storehouse of memory and nostalgia. And they had the mistaken assumption, as most of us had, that the filmic text is somehow stable and absolute and unchangeable. So what the longer version includes is a rather momentous meeting between the middle-aged Totò and Elena. You'll remember that Elena had not arrived on the 5 o'clock bus as per the arrangement, and this then signaled the end of their relationship. At this point, she disappears from Totò's life forever. But we learn in the longer version of the film she did in fact arrive, and Totò had run off to find her. When she came back to the projection booth, she had found Alfredo alone there, and they had a discussion in which he convinced her to end the romance, saying that it was in Totò's best interest to leave Sicily, to leave love behind, and to pursue a career in Rome. Elena follows Alfredo's advice and, in fact, withdraws from the relationship. When Totò returns then to the projection booth, Alfredo lies to him and says that Elena had never come. Alfredo had played God and had really rewritten the script of this young boy's life. Alfredo's own idea of art is that great art can only be made in the absence of the fulfillment of desire, because great art is made in quest for that impossible fulfillment. Alfredo has defined art, and he has defined love, and he has seen them as mutually exclusive choices, and he's made that choice for Totò. The shorter version of the film is a much sunnier vision.
Mm-hmm. But the ultimate story that this says is that the cinema is now transcendent above all.
The longer version of the film makes us realize that
he's confined to being the teller of great stories, but he cannot live a great story.
And instead, a much more sinister possibility has emerged.
Movies do have an amazing power, but here's the story of Toto, who falls in love
with the image, and he's not able to look past the image.